It's brought to you today by Freedom Nova Scotia, and I want everyone to give Dan a hand for setting up the sound. I'm just going to start right off because I see that our good friend across the road is back, Mr. Crackhead. I have actually some information. Can everyone say hello to Keith Gillis? So I'm not really sure what he's here to protest because all he seems to be able to say is crackhead. But as it turns out, he one time tested positive allegedly for COVID. And what did he do? He went grocery shopping while he tested positive. So how much of a shit do you think that he cares about COVID? He also allegedly ripped off his employer thousands of dollars, which is why he has a lot of time to come here and harass us. Anyway, I'm going to move on to a more positive note. I have a good friend here. He is the king of foy pops in Nova Scotia. And it's Paul Westhaver, and he has a few words for you all. I'm going to go live for this, Paul. I hope you're ready because I'm just throwing you to the wolves.
Yeah, I think I'm all right. It's kind of blowy. Hi, everybody. We, the happy few. I always think of Henry V and his speech to his troops before the Battle of Agincourt when I see us together. Thank you. All right. Morgan asked me to speak today because there's a worldwide freedom rally. And we're a part of that entire collection of people who have risen up against this bizarre response to a falsified pandemic. So here we are, together, happy, relatively few today. So my words, first of all, I wanted to bring attention to Morgan and Jeremy both, in particular, because they've suffered at the hands of the Premier, because their arrest was a direct result of a directive that slid out of that office. A lot of people are protesting in a lot of places, but it's unusual to have a couple of people directly targeted as an example for all of us. We all are protesting, and these two people are archetypical sufferers of abuse of authority from our government. So I am thankfully here today without the threat of being arrested, because the examples that the government has chosen are standing here with us and with me today, suffering for me. So thank you so much for suffering for me. I owe you two a debt. So, what happened in Fall River
pretty good.
was perfectly legal, and Robert Strang knows that. So this lawsuit is going to be coming into the courts, and the government is going to have to make some kind of jackass argument about two people standing in a public place. And I'd like to see how that's going to work out. In fact, I'd love to see Discovery. Wouldn't I love to see Discovery put in the public view? And they're going to do everything they can to drag this out, to make it look like these two people who are legally protesting in public had done something wrong, and then pull the case out at the last minute. You see it. They'll just do what Trudeau did to the truckers in Ottawa. I don't know. I'd love to see them go to court, and I'd like to see Discovery, quite honestly. Okay, so past, present, and future. We've had a 2-year exercise, a monstrous exercise of abuse of authority. What has happened in Nova Scotia is nothing less than a public health catastrophe. All this legislation and provisions for emergency powers, actions, mask wearing, social distancing, lockdowns, all of it was a catastrophe.
Better with these. Weird.
Yeah, they're good ones then.
Yeah, that's why I bought so many pairs of Oakleys.
It's pretty windy.
I don't know. Clear.
I'll say it again, it's so important. The idea is simple.
Alcohol.
What's happened in Nova Scotia for the past 2 years has been a public health catastrophe.
How did that
And
get
it's
there?
happened at the hands of one person, Robert Strang. What did he do? He's the epitome of that man is Procrustes. He's a Greek monster that tortured people who traveled from Athens to Elysius. They'd stop at his stronghold and stay for the night, and they would put him in a bed. And if the bed didn't fit, he'd either stretch their legs to fit the bed, or he'd cut their legs off to fit the bed. And this is really what happened with Robert Strang. He's possessed by an ideology of one size fits all, and he made everybody conform to his puny mind. He has a directive under emergency powers, section 53 of the Health Protection Act. 53(2)A says that he has to establish a voluntary immunization program. It's supposed to be a voluntary immunization program. And what we got was a forced vaccination program. Nobody in Nova Scotia became immune because of any vaccine. Not one person in Nova Scotia today is immune because of a vaccine that was administered by Robert Strang. Everybody, every single person in Nova Scotia who is immune today is immune because they contracted COVID-19 and recovered from it normally. Your Dr. Strang was asked, 53(2)A of the Health Protection Act, to establish a voluntary immunization program. He didn't track immunizations. He didn't try for immunizations. He didn't do anything. Like Procrustes, hacking off people's legs, he forced vaccinations on people that didn't create immunity. Nobody in Nova Scotia is immune because of Robert Strang. 100% of Nova Scotians are immune because they contracted COVID-19 and recovered naturally from it. That is a public health catastrophe, and we suffered for it. What we should have done is all gut it in the first place. It would have taken 2 weeks. And that's what's happening now. Everybody's got a bug. Everybody's got a bug. They get the bug, they go home, and they recover for it. Like mankind's been doing for 3 million years. Robert Strang implemented a sick, tiny ideology that floated down into his puny mind from space, that did nothing for us but trap us and destroy us economically. That's what this last 2 years has been about. Okay, so that's just that's just Paul Westaver venting himself in public. Not really. Not really. There's a lot of stuff on the internet I'm sure you've heard, but I got the receipts right here in my hand. Cardiovascular outcomes in Nova Scotia during the early phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, authored by Alison Green, John Sapp, Greg Hirsch et al. Greg Hirsch has been on the news. What happened? There was a 50% increase in cardiac mortalities in Nova Scotia during the early stages of the pandemic because people weren't going to the hospitals. Why? Because some asshole was trying to flatten the curve and all the beds were empty. So people were terrified. They were staying in their homes. They were scared of this bug. And they thought the hospitals were overflowed. And the hospitals had these weird policies where people couldn't go into the hospitals. And we had a 50% increase in the number of deaths in the early stages of the pandemic just for cardiac failure. That's 45 people over normal. Robert Strang and his asshole policies were responsible for the increased numbers of deaths of cardiac patients in the early stages of the pandemic to a number in orders of magnitude nearly identical to the 62 people that died supposedly from COVID-19. Remember, he was the judge. Okay, so then there was cancer. Then there were suicides. Then there was respiratory failures. There's all these other cases. The same papers are going to be coming out with the same kind of information. I got additional information through Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy requests on the total number of excess deaths in Nova Scotia that occurred not related to COVID but related to other reasons. And there was an increase of 400 deaths in Nova Scotia while there was 250 deaths due to COVID. More people died because of the mismanagement of the hospital assets in Nova Scotia than they did from the disease. Robert Strang, who didn't make a single person immune, shut down the hospitals, prevented beds from being opened, and stuck people with these vaccines that didn't make anybody immune, and 400 people died. We had 25 people, 22 or 25 people died at Portapique, and they have a commission on mass deaths. I call for a commission on Robert Strang. Robert Strang mismanaged the assets in this province. Doctors couldn't do cancer surgeries. People were too freaked out because of the mind control bullshit that came out of his office. You know, they actually tested phraseologies. They tested, well, how can we get people to take this vaccine? I'm not anti-vax either, by the way, folks. I got all mine, but I didn't take the mRNA because it was an experiment. That's why. What did he do? They tested phrases. Oh, listen to the science. That was a phrase. That was a tested phrase. A propaganda company, tested out these various communication schemes to find out which ones would be more attractive to people. That's what they did. Well, follow the science. That's the one that you heard him say all the time, right? That's a big lie. This is the science. It's coming out now. Retrospectively, we're finding out what a disaster he presided over. He presided over the worst public health catastrophe in the history of civilized humanity. I just got some noise from the crowd. It was good information. Did you know Shelley Hibson, who is the queen of boy pops in Nova Scotia, she got thousands and thousands of pages, minutes, including the minutes of the prophylactics and therapeutics meetings set up by Brendan Carr, who was fired. It's one thing that he was doing that was awesome. He had a alternative treatment scheme being studied. He was looking into, among other things, ivermectin and monoclonal antibody treatments with their trade names. And I got the documents and I read them all. They had 300 doses of monoclonal antibody treatment and none were used. We had 250 deaths. I want you to think about that one for a minute. We had 250-ish deaths. I don't know how many they are anymore. I mean, it's all bullshit now. But they had 300 treatments of monoclonal antibody treatment. They didn't want to use them. Why would they not use them? That's a big question. Let's put that one to the commission. If that commission doesn't happen, we're going to make it happen. There's 2 JRs right now, and there's 2 more to come. We're going in the courts, and we're making the government answer questions and produce a record so that the public knows what's going on. Now, let's look at this from Houston's point of view. He could stick his head up his ass and not do anything, or he can step in front of this problem and say, yeah, there was something happening.
I got everything. Yeah, I got all kinds.
What do you think he's going to do?
It's like a mouse, but it's
Yeah, you can plug in your phone, you can turn up the temperature. That's all.
300 cases, 300 doses of monoclonal antibodies and none were used.
I get everything online. You can hold on to it.
That same Therapeutics and Prophylactics Committee received a recommendation from Lisa Barrett not to use ivermectin.
Nice once in a while.
So they killed it. What did they kill it for?
This one's a fuel.
This is where I had an issue with it.
So you light that
They
one
killed
on
it
fire.
because it was an unknown.
This one right here.
Like mRNA was known.
It's a fuel one also.
Did anybody know anything about mRNA? The clinical trials, last I checked, 157 on clinicaltrials.gov are still in progress. The papers are still out, they're still recruiting, the experiments are still being done on you.
Hey, man.
We don't know what the outcomes are, except hepatitis in children, myocarditis, blood clots. It's a mess. There's indications that there's HIV could even be a result of these injections. The experiment is still going on, and it was done on you guys. Think about that. I want to talk a little bit about the pro-choice contingent in Nova Scotia. My body, my choice. Oh, really? My body, my choice. Is that what you were thinking when you went to daddy government, the ultimate patriarchy, and stuck your arm out and kissed the ass of government with your body and your choice to have something stuck in your arm? And then you dragged your little kids out and got them stuck. And that child's body and that child's choice. Oh, really? So much for the choice movement, guys. There's someone in the crowd here I don't recognize, and he said the worst. He said he lost his job. You know what I was talking about? Robert Strang and his pea-brain Procrustean obsession. People lost their jobs. When you lose your jobs, you don't have money, and you don't have meaning. Now you can't support your family. You get pissed off.
How you doing, my friend?
You get angry. And then you can't help your kids. And what's that? What is it when you don't have the ability to do something, you're forced into maybe taking a vax in order to get your life back to order? That's extortion. 346 of the Canadian Criminal Code. 423 is very similar. It's intimidation. If people are forced into doing something that they otherwise wouldn't do through an illegal act, and I'll get into that, that's extortion, that's intimidation. And that came from one person. Where did that come from, folks? Robert Strang. He intimidated the public, and now he's running saying, oh, mandates weren't really mandates, they were just suggestions. Like hell they were. You get dragged out of a restaurant because you couldn't produce your public health and your personal health information.
Wow. Report every-
That's how it was all done there, by the way. All these illegal acts were conducted under the auspices of a single idea. What is your personal health information, John Q. Public? Tell me. I want to know details about your personal health. I want to know if you took a vax. I want to know if you had an abortion. I want to know if you've seen a psychiatrist. I want to know how many diseases you've had in the past and that you still may possess, like HIV. I want to know all that. Well, somehow Robert Strang managed to convince the entire public that everybody's entitled to everybody else's information. That's how they did it. People willingly gave up their personal health information to anybody who asked. I didn't, I guarantee you that. No one knows what's going on inside my body. I don't even actually. Look at me. It's not good. All right. The present. That's the past. That was a lot of bullshit that just happened. Okay, so where are we? You know what I see? I see a lot of sad people still driving around in cars with masks on. It's all over. It's all over. And people are still driving around in cars with masks on. What's that all about? That's called delusional behavior. People are deluded. They're suffering Stockholm syndrome. They're terrified. They're beat up for 2 years. And now they're freaked out. They're still wearing masks. There's another side to it. And unfortunately, it's a political side. There are people that wear masks because it's emblematic of their political persuasion. And it's also emblematic of something the government did try to achieve. And they did. They were very successful. They were able to put a talisman on your face, not your face, nobody here. I guarantee you, no one here, but they were able to put a talisman on the face of every obedient Nova Scotian. Now we know that about 60% of Nova Scotians will do whatever they're told. Now, I'm going to be talking about the future in a couple of minutes. The future. It's good to know that 60% of Nova Scotians will do whatever a minority says. If you want to take over, let's just say, politically you want to take over, I'm not a politician, but there's politicians here, I'm sure. You want to take over, you don't have to worry about the majority of the public. You have to worry about 3%. 3% are going to make the difference. These people who wear masks, they'll follow along. Shelley Hipson also did something else I want to tell you about because it's relative to the president. Right now, as of Monday, no more masks in school. No more. Well, I'm happy to hear that you're applauding. You should be applauding for yourselves because it isn't anything that the health minister did, that's for sure. It's the pressure put on the health minister by the likes of you. Congratulations to you for doing that. Now we know why they were doing it. $24 million were allocated for the school systems with no receipts required for COVID expenditures so that the teachers would get money for God knows what, provided that they put this talisman, this symbol of obedience, in all the little children's faces. Now remember, children are an unaffected cohort. They can't die from this, even though Strang tried to convince, everybody forgets this. Remember there's a child that was 13 that died from heart. Oh, that was COVID! No, it wasn't. That was a lie they killed right away. That poor kid, who my family knows, had cardiac troubles from birth. And they tried to paint it as a COVID death. That's how sick those bastards are. Using a 13-year-old. And the suffering of a family. It's unreal. So, Shelley Hipson found these numbers. $24 million were used, public money, to pay the teachers teachers, administrations, etc., school systems,
It's nothing to do with the teachers.
so long as the kids are wearing masks. Well, that's over on Monday, thanks to you guys. Who knows what's going to happen to the money? I don't care at this point.
I am a teacher.
Okay, so what's in the present right now? Did anybody notice?
Local?
Where's Fabian?
I taught in BC,
Fabian.
but I moved here.
There he is. He's checking out the corners of the world.
You had to be
Hey, Fabian.
vaccinated, you had to be masked.
There's something going on. People have been telling me, what they want to hear, and I'm a reporter, so I'm telling you what I've heard. What's the story with gas prices? The oil in the ground didn't disappear overnight, and the market didn't disappear overnight. So I can't understand why we're paying for $10 a gallon, imperial gallon for gas. I don't get it. What's going on? I think there's
Everything. I've taught everything.
I think it's called lockdown by gas prices.
When I finished.
This is just a continuation of the COVID pandemic lockdown under another name. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, right? Well, lockdowns, it doesn't matter how you do it, so long as it's a lockdown. And that gas prices, they're under control by a very narrow number of people, mostly political, mostly governments. So that's what we're suffering right now, a continuation of the lockdown
Like, no, I'm not wearing a
by
mask.
gas prices. And God help us in the fall, when oil prices are going to be like $2,000 for a tank of oil. Can you imagine that? Thanks for Peter McIsaac for that number.
We're doing it to ourselves.
All right, so
Complaining. Everybody's still going.
what about the future?
Where I live,
So all this stuff I've been talking about
it
is
was
about the
ridiculous. I
future,
went
really.
to one of those community meetings.
I want,
And,
first and foremost, a
It was
commission
They're talking about how
A commission
kids had to go and wear
that
the
studies
mask
what
going
the hell
to
went
school,
wrong.
And, they had
And
to
this
go
is
wear it all day
perfect
in school.
material for the
And then they had to
academics
go wear it
amongst
going
us in
back
this
home
community.
on
They
the
ought to be
bus.
looking at this
And
just
some of
like
them are taking it off
Allison
on the
Green
bus.
and Gregory Hirsch.
And
They should be looking
they're
at
getting yelled
every
at, put it
column
back on.
of medical
And
treatment,
then one of the
why people
people that's
weren't
on
allowed in the
this board,
hospitals, and the mistreatment
she
that's
stood up
coming
and said
from the
that
medical
if it was my kid,
institutions.
I'd
You
like to
know,
smack the kid right in
my
the head.
dad just
I'm like,
loved socialized medicine,
talking about smacking the
1960s
kid
when it
because the
came in.
kid
He was so
can't
happy
breathe.
about that. And I'm
just
telling you, he'd be rolling in his grave
They
right now if
think,
he was witnessing
I'm
what
one of
was
them.
going on.
I'm just
You know
here
what's
to
troubling me the
observe,
most,
you know?
and what's got
I'm
me
not.
going on this?
All right.
Trudeau is
They're
introducing
crazy.
legislation
Absolutely
that
crazy.
will enable federal funds to be
Like, if they
used
wanna
to
wear a
pay
mask,
for
they'll
somebody
hire two of
who
them.
wants to commit
Force, like, kids,
suicide
people wear masks.
because they have
Like,
misery
Come
as
on,
a
man.
consequence of financial
Wrong.
debt. How sick is that? Now we have a medical system, this MAID thing we've gotten in Nova Scotia, these vultures that go around killing people. And now they're going to be going in saying, well, your bank account's pretty crappy, you've got some debt. What's the use of you? Really? We don't need people that are carrying debt in our society. I think you need to really think about taking the shot, multiple shots, one shot after another, a booster shot to put you out of your misery, right? That's what's going on. So socialized medicine has actually turned into a death cult.
hello.
We're living in a country where medicine has transmuted from nuns and religious workers caring for the sick, simply bathing them and giving them water, to an industrialized execution facility. And you think that's an extreme statement?
I hear you.
I give you 2 years of vaccinations that made nobody immune,
Still feeding the deer?
mass unemployment,
You killed them all.
suffering beyond all comprehension at the hands of one man. And the College of Physicians and Surgeons did nothing about it. And their ethics, they threw them out the
Eat
window.
all the peanut butter, or do you want me to get you more?
So I want a commission. I want a commission that looks at all these decisions by these assholes. Because the laws are still there. And if you think that they're happy with the misery that they caused with this one pandemic, the trillions of dollars that were spent and put into a limited number of pockets, and they're not going to try it again, you're mistaken. Why have one pandemic when you can have two at twice the price? You're going to get another one in the fall, folks. They haven't changed the laws in Nova Scotia. They are. They're planning it. Have you heard of monkeypox yet? That's just the beginning. Hopefully that's a bad joke. And I'll tell you, if Strang had his way, this pandemic would be still administered under his authority. Secondly, I think the unions need to talk to from their enrolled members. What's going on with the unions? Hey guys, hey union leaders, you're the biggest assholes in the province. The nurses union, you didn't stand up for them. You created a contract. Now Nova Scotia Health Authority saying, oh, well, you know, you had to have the vax because your union said so. And the union is saying, oh, well, we're doing that because of a mandate that came from that idiot Strang. Well, okay, unions, once bitten, twice shy. Wake up! Look after your people.
Have a good day.
I'm not a union rep. You guys do that. The next thing is personal health information. We have laws in Nova Scotia about your personal health. Why isn't the government protecting you from people who are abusing your health information to exploit, intimidate, and extort you? Why isn't the government stepping in on your behalf? Because they're the ones that have your personal health information. It's the government. It's not like private companies are actually doing medicine. It's the government that is doing medicine. They have your personal health information. I have it on good authority that personal health information gets released to nasty people, by nasty people working in Nova Scotia Health. I think we have a few examples that we can show the Nova Scotia Health Authority where files were pulled off the server and circulated. Okay, you want to talk about that? Well, there's got to be some kind of comprehension about the immunity, psychiatric analysis. I don't know where that one's going. All your health care becoming property of someone else. I want to ask you all, is your personal health information yours? Does it belong to the government? Does it belong to anybody that you don't want it to have? Exactly. So it's yours. It's contingent on you to assert your rights over your personal being and your personal health information. If you don't let them have your personal health information, they can't make any kind of informed decision. If they make any decisions based on what they believe your health to be, that's discrimination. Let me bring up the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission. My wife has put a case towards the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, and they kicked it back. They kicked it back so many. There was 8,023 submissions filed through the web service to the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission over the last 40 months. Why do I know? I asked for it through a FOIPOP. 8,023. How many were approved? People of Nova Scotia. The Human Rights Commission is on your side, right?
No, it ain't.
Yeah, 35. 35! That's the number that were approved for final review by their definitions and examination out of 8,023. They said they don't look at vaccines. No, the vaccines were the excuse, whether someone had the vaccine or not. We heard, oh, if you tell us if you have HIV or not, then we'll do something for you. It's another case of another government institution demanding your personal health information to make a decision on whether you're worthy or not to be protected. A whole category of personal health human rights protections are absolutely excluded if you don't bend over and tell them your personal health information. That's the key, folks. Don't give it to anybody, ever. The last thing I want to bring up is how do we go forward? I'm not a politician, so it's inappropriate for me to speculate about politics. I'm just shitty at it. I say fucking public and things like that, and that's just no good for anybody's heads around. Okay, so we in Nova Scotia, we in Canada, we're not free. I thought we were. I grew up thinking that we were free. We're not. So I'm thinking there needs to be a mechanism wherein we have more participation in the actions locally of government instead of less. Right now, the school boards are doing everything they can to make sure that the public are not involved. They're shrinking their ability, their accountability to the parents. They're taking over as parents. That's just an example. I want to see more. I'm just telling you straight up. I just want to see less government and more local control over government. I don't know how to do that, but I think this is an opportunity for many of you guys to get together and start thinking about, if you don't like Strang so much, we can't take him out, right? And there's a party system. You get to vote for one guy in 5 years. And they just changed their minds. Houston said he wasn't going to have this vax pass, and he was all horny for it at one point. And he said he wasn't going to do it. And there's no means to drag him out of office. There wasn't any way to do it. Well, I don't have the answer politically. I'm just not that guy. But maybe amongst us, there are some guys, I'm sure there are, that are politically motivated to alter fundamentally the way we do politics, not just in Nova Scotia, but in Canada. We have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We have a Bill of Rights. And we never listen to them. People ignore them. So what's going on federally is very heartening. The former Premier of Newfoundland, Brian Peckford, looking after things. So that's all I have to say today. Again, thanks to Morgan and Jeremy. Thank you for suffering on my behalf, because you are suffering, and I'm going to be the beneficiary of your suffering. Thank you very much. And thank you all for listening to me.
Yeah, when I left, it was like warm, it's nice, and you got a little bit of a breeze. It's perfect. You get here, and it's like, no.
Big round of applause for Paul Westhaver. I don't think he sleeps. I don't. I get emails like all hours from this man. No, I know he doesn't. So I wanted to share something. There's a table set up in the back. It's the Citizens Alliance of Nova Scotia at the kids section. I'm just going to read off this flyer. It says, did you know that there is no evidence to support efficacy of face masks in preventing the spread of infection, and that the decision to continue to mask was made by the Department of Education based on operational issues and not health and safety concerns by the top doctor, I can't say his name. They almost got me. That's one of my bail conditions. Although it is no longer mandated, there is a risk that face masks on children may be arbitrarily applied again in the fall for one virus or another. Mental health as well as learning and developmental issues are on the rise, and our children are being negatively affected by fear-driven, unscientific, and irrational decisions. So yeah, I don't know about the monkeypox, but to me, when I look up pictures, it looks like shingles, and shingles is an autoimmune disease that could be brought on by something, maybe an experimental drug that affects your immune system. Alongside the judicial review work, which is at the crucial stage of identifying the government's evidence for imposing proof of COVID vaccination, CANS is actively taking action to prevent the mask mandate from being reimposed on our children while fully supporting the rights of those who choose to continue to mask. We are requesting help with the monetary donations towards the legal costs of our actions. And I know they had a court date this month that has been pushed out. I don't believe we know the new date. It might be in August sometime, but they will keep everyone posted. So their website is thecans, THECANS.ca, if you'd like to support them.
Put your hand over.
Next up, I want to touch on, sadly we lost a member of our freedom community recently. I don't know if you recognize Michael Jameson. He would come here in the yellow truck, and he actually had his truck set up as the stage and set up sound for us at the last rally at Peace and Friendship Park. I want to have a moment of silence for him, and I apologize. His family asked that we did not do a convoy for him yet, and I will keep everyone posted on Freedom Nova Scotia's page in regards to his funeral arrangements, as I know he was a huge, not just through the freedom movement, he was a huge part of the Windsor community his entire life. So I would like for everyone just to take a moment of silence for Michael Jameson.
Right here? Is that working here? You know what? I find it a little bit hard to get ethanol around here. So
I
what?
can get it.
Ethanol?
Yeah, ask her. I can get anything.
Nice.
So
So what you can use is actually hand sanitizer.
yeah, hand sanitizer. That actually works.
Yeah, it has
Put it
ethanol.
in like a pop can.
Well, I don't need the penny stove right there. Sorry.
Thank you. And thanks to Mr. Crockett for staying silent as well. He may have left. I know Michael would love a convoy in his honor, and I do intend to arrange one in the near future. Next up, I would like to touch on, we have a special guest here from New Brunswick, and that is Nicholas Pereira. He's been on the front lines of the freedom movement over the last 2 years. He played an instrumental role in starting and growing the freedom rallies in New Brunswick. In the last federal election, he ran as a candidate with the People's Party of Canada and is the founder of the Canadian Unity Project, with a mission to help Canadians all across the country become self-sufficient in body, mind, and spirit. Please welcome my friend Nicholas Pereira.
Freedom fighters, make some noise if you love this country! It's really windy, I really gotta hear you. I said make some noise if you love this country! Our nation of Canada is more divided than ever before. Establishment politicians like Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh use divide and conquer tactics to pin us up against each other. They are cowards. Legacy media such as the crooked CBC, along with corporate interests, have used identity politics to scare us into compliance with a globalist agenda. This agenda is known as the Great Reset and is led by the World Economic Forum chairman and psychopath Klaus Schwab. This agenda, we must understand, means the dramatic reduction of loss and freedoms, the dramatic reduction of your individual rights and freedoms, which is the basis of a strong nation. A strong Canada means strong communities from coast to coast. Strong communities mean strong families, and strong families are made up of you, strong individuals. Now, family looks different to different people. But the reality is that it starts with the core. It starts with you. And that's why it's so important that we all protect our own individual rights and freedoms and not give them up under the Marxist philosophy of giving up your own individual rights for the collective. That is not proper.
Can't see during the day, right? I got the safety.
Your strength as an individual comes from your ability to be yourself while respecting the choices of others.
You're not shitting on the
This is
country
why
where
it's
a lot of
so
people say, "Oh my
important that
God,
we
you're-"
learn
Yeah.
and we protect our Bill of Rights as well as our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and do everything that we must do to reestablish these documents as the highest law of the land. Let me remind you of the words of our 13th Prime Minister, Mr. John Diefenbaker. Mr. Diefenbaker said, "I am Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship in my own way, free to stand for what I think right, free to oppose what I believe wrong, or free to choose those who shall govern my country. This heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and all mankind." You see, we have to understand that Canada is literally built on the concept of freedom. Let me quote the 7th Prime Minister of Canada, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, who said, "Canada is free and freedom is its nationality."
I can actually.
These two gentlemen, both Prime Minister Diefenbaker as well as Prime Minister Laurier,
Better on you.
were from different political parties and held different political ideologies, but still they both understood and acknowledged that it is our freedom that defines us as Canadians.
They're custom.
Unfortunately, the establishment politicians and parties have long forgotten what this great nation stands for, but we, the people, have not forgot what we stand for and who we are on the global stage, a symbol of freedom and unity. That is what Canada is known for all over the globe.
These are the same
By
ones that,
embodying the four
Paul
principles
Jackson-
of individual responsibility, freedom, fairness, and respect, we together will rebuild Canada stronger and better than before.
I think.
This can be done by forging strong Canadian identity, which creates strong Canadian unity, and speaking against identity politics and special interest groups, which promote special treatment for one group over another based on sex, based on race, or based on religious or affiliation. When I grew up, that was called discrimination. That is what Justin Trudeau is doing, and the establishment parties, along with the CBC. It's so important that we, the people, defund the CBC. Everybody loves, by the way, when we say that. But I want you to understand principally why that needs to happen. The government and the media should never be in bed together, because they hold the checks and balances of society. The government, the media, the judicial system must operate as separate entities. They should never be funding each other and should never be in bed with each other. That slowly erodes our democracy and our way of life, and that's what we are witnessing now. Yes, CTV, Global,
I don't.
they're all owned
I just drink.
by, I think there's what, 4 or 5 companies in the world that own all the major
Good one
media?
though.
6,
Good one,
thank
though.
you,
Yeah.
6. This is
I
why
gotta go pick up a
independent media,
Yeah.
like Druthers, along with, give a big shout out to Druthers. This is why independent media, podcasts, social media, that's the beauty of social media in this age, is each and every single one of you are now empowered to be the media.
Yes.
We have an opportunity
Yes.
to take the media by storm, because every single one of us can be the media. That is the power of social media in this age if it's used correctly. Both the Bill of Rights as well as the Charter of Rights and Freedoms protect you from being discriminated by reason of race, national origin, color, religion, sexual orientation, or identity, as well as medical status. Meaning, our current federal government is in direct violation of these laws. They have been over the last 2 years with their draconian measures, and they are still in violation with these federal mandates. These mandates are a direct violation of our fundamental rights and freedoms. Our government is criminal, and it is our job, every single person here, every single person part of the freedom movement, you don't have to be a politician to know what your rights are. It is up to you as the citizens to know what your rights are and to assert them and exercise them always. Never let anyone coerce you against your own individual rights and freedoms. Along with the need to protect our most important national documents, I propose that we also need to be advocating for immigration reform that is sustainable and does not put pressure on those who are already living within the borders of Canada. Now this is a funny one because you may look at me and be like, I think he's an immigrant. You are correct. Right? I remember when the CBC called me a white supremacist. I was like, have you looked at my picture lately? That was a good one. I am an immigrant. My family came here in 1988 from Brazil. Thank you. And I'm going to tell you my immigration story and why it's so important. And as an immigrant, I speak for immigration reform. First of all, you have to always ask, why do so many people want to come to Canada? Because it's a freaking awesome place to live. That's why my family wanted to come here, for a better life. And we've got that. That's why I'm here today. It's why we're traveling all across Atlantic Canada and all across the country. And we've got multiple projects on the go because I understand and I respect how valuable this country is. Immigrants tend to understand this, actually. I've met tons of immigrants speaking at rallies and going to different events, and how many immigrants are actually on the front lines is amazing, because as an immigrant, I'll tell you, we get it. Because we've come from other countries and other places where these freedoms were not available. These opportunities were not available, and I'm telling you, it just breaks my heart to see Canada erode in this way.
Can't be doing that.
In 1987, my family applied to come to Canada, and at that time, Canada had a quota of 100,000 to 150,000 people were allowed in the country, and we were denied entrance in the country. But that's okay, because when you really want something, you work for it. So we really wanted it. So we applied again the next year, and we were able to come to Canada. When my father came to Canada, he had a job lined up. My mother worked for different governments and different businesses over the last however long we've been here, 1988. Someone can do the math, a long time. I was 3 years old. The point is this, we were denied because Canada respected and understood skills-based immigration. They understood that you have to have a sustainable immigration program. So when we got here, we had our plan and we made a life. And my father and my family and my mother and my brother, we've all done well for ourselves. We've worked hard, we've contributed, we've paid our taxes, we got involved. And heck, now I'm part of a political party. Nobody saw that coming, right? Wasn't the plan. But when you see the things when you see this heavy totalitarian government taking away the very thing that your family came here and thrived on,
Turn it on.
I feel like it is our duty to give back. I feel like it is my duty to give back, to understand and educate people how important it is to have sustainable immigration. And it's not racist, and it's not white supremacist, and it's not any of the bullshit the CBC and Global and the mainstream and legacy media promote it to be. It is just common sense. It is just common sense. When you value something, you don't just give it away. You allow people to work for it, and you continue to improve it.
This ain't your first time being homeless.
I personally pledge to continue to speak about immigration reform and how important it is. Both Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland have admitted right now that one of the major aspects of the housing crisis we face and the pressure that people are feeling when it comes to the housing market is because we have too many people coming into the country. They've literally said we have more people coming in than we have houses. So instead of doing the responsible thing, which is to then freeze immigration right now until we allow Canadians to get back on their feet, then open up a skills-based 100,000 to 150,000 immigration program, which would be the responsible thing to do. What they do is continue to print more money, which means more taxation on you, harder times on you, and then they promise people that have not paid into our system a better quality of life than our own people, our own veterans, our own seniors are being priced out of the market, and people that are coming here are not contributing and able to gain better qualities of lives. They are also going to create massive project housing and massive ghettos, meaning the safety of our communities are going to be threatened. We see what's happening in Europe.
The ones that have to change, they're going to be the ones that are close.
Thank you. We see what's happening in Europe, where there's places that even the police won't go because they tried this experimental mass immigration programs and it does not work. Yes, the U.S. as well is experiencing this. It is not responsible, and it is a direct violation to Canada. It is a political weapon and tactic to buy votes and secure power, period.
Got a couple different flags in there too, with flagpoles that extend.
That's right. I personally pledge to also to continue to teach our history, to reconnect us to our roots in our schools. They're no longer teaching our history. They're calling our history racist. They're calling our history negative. That is not true. Why do you think so many people try to get to Canada every year? Because we have always been the beacon of light for the world, for inclusivity, for tolerance, for patience, for kindness. I mean, Canada is known as the peacekeepers of the world, but this rhetoric coming out of Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, and many of the other establishment politicians is a direct ploy, and it comes from an old Marxist theory which they've upgraded today, and now they call it wokeism, and it's bullshit. It's bullshitism. It does not create unity, it creates division, and that's their tactic, divide and conquer. So our plan must be the exact opposite, unite and prosper. Unite and prosper.
That's nice. I had the same.
If you believe in a strong and free Canada, make so much noise that on May 28th they hear us, and at the World Economic Forum, that we will not honor any world government systems. Any treaty that's signed holds no place in these Canadian borders. We are sovereign from global obligations, and the PPC and myself are the only party saying that we will pull out of the UN, pull out of the Paris Accord. We will not honor global treaties. We are a sovereign nation and must move towards further sovereignty from any old systems. I want to share that tonight Morgan has been so nice. First of all, big round of applause for Morgan May and everything she's done for the freedom movement. Same with Jeremy and everyone here. I know I connected with Morgan online maybe over a year and a half ago, just following each other and everything we've been doing. And she's been kind enough to host an event tonight where I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to be giving a speech called I Am Free, The Path to Sovereignty. And in that speech tonight, I'm going to be speaking about a plan, a grassroots plan outside of the political spectrum. Because I believe we are at war, and war is not won just by one front. It's won by many fronts. So yes, I am involved politically, but I also acknowledge that the PPC is not the solution. It's part of the solution, but the solution is a collective effort of Canadians coming together. So I'm going to be speaking above and beyond politics tonight, if you're interested, and really be speaking about one of the most important vitals of a nation, which is education. And definitely.
Real bullets.
So please come out tonight. Again, it's called the I Am Free event. You can look it up on Facebook, and please just connect with me after and you can share more. Wokeism and cancel culture is the most dangerous pandemic that has come through the borders of our country. It is in our school systems. It is in our universities, and it is meant to destroy the very unity and fabric of our nation. So not only are we currently facing horrible monetary policies, skyrocketing inflation, we are also facing a war of ideology. It is a war of conditioning. It is a war of behavior modification and compliance. It is a war on your freedom of speech, your freedom of worship, your freedom of movement, and your freedom of bodily autonomy. My body, my choice. That was what they ran on, and then they threw it out.
What?
How'd you put the bullets?
My body, my life.
Oh, yeah.
Your body, your life.
Back in there. When you stick them in there.
If I didn't create you, then I have no business telling you what you should do with your life and your body. I do not own you. A government does not own you. You are owned by God Himself if you believe that. And if you don't believe it, just say it's nature. I don't care what you call it. You are free, and you are free to disagree with me as well. Because that is respect. Canada, we face the biggest threat to our nation in our history so far. But I want you to know, and I don't want you to feel scared, and I don't want you to feel defeated. You see, I truly believe that Canada's best days are still ahead of us.
I feel like we're the States right now.
Bring it on!
That's right, bring it on. Bring it on. Here's what I know, and I'm sure if you reflect on your life, you know this from your own personal experience of life, that whenever there's a breakdown, it simply means that God is setting us up for a breakthrough. You see, this had to happen. It had to come to this point so we could wake up, myself included, because I wasn't paying attention until all of these draconian measures was going on, and I thought, is anybody going to speak for me? Is there not one politician that's going to stand up for me? And I realized there wasn't many. There was a few we found. But that's why I'm hopeful. I'm grateful because we have the opportunity to do something great. Let us never forget the opening statement of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which says, Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Nature's law, God's law is not given to you by a government. Nobody gives you your freedoms. You are inherently free because you are a human being of planet Earth. It is not given to you. It is always darkest before dawn, but it is only in the darkness that we can remember the light, that we can evaluate where we are going, that new leaders can emerge, leaders of principle, leaders of strength, and leaders who will stick to their values like you've done, even when it wasn't popular, and they will eventually become the popular values because we, the people, will show them by example that they work. History knows History has shown us that these principles work.
Open up the bottles and
Right now, you are part of that history. We are the fastest growing populist libertarian movement, the fastest growing movement of the people and the rise in Canada that has ever happened in our history. And each and every single one of you have a part to play. It is because of you, it is because of your effort, it's because you're willing to hold signs, to come to rallies, to vote, to talk to people, and most importantly, you're willing to organize, and you're willing never to comply with the draconian measures in which they will try to impose on us. It is because we stand here today as free Canadians that we can begin and continue to build momentum to our movement, take back Canada, and make us a free and sovereign nation. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. I'm so blessed to be in Nova Scotia, and we'll see every single one of you tonight. Thank you so much.
Oh my God. That is fucking great.
you can't hear bombs going off.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Big round of applause, please, for Nicholas Pereira.
He's a crackhead, like a 11-year-old crackhead kid.
So I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. I was worried. I know it's getting more and more difficult for people to come out. Thankfully, there are groups across Nova Scotia and the world. So people are sticking tighter to their communities, I understand, because of the gas prices, but it's all, every one of you coming out, it's all important, and I think the more the merrier, the more gatherings, the merrier. So let's bring it on. Please never stop standing up for your rights. Death by 1,000 cuts. Just keep going at them. I love you guys, and we'll see you at the next worldwide rally.